Hey everyone, I'm Grant and welcome back to the channel. Now I realized at the end of my last video I said I was going to do some fuel economy testing on my TJ Wrangler because of the performance of the new intercooler. I will be doing that sometime soon. However, part of fuel economy testing is sitting and driving this for long periods of time. Before I do that, I would like to try to make everything quieter, even though also in my last video I said everything was quieter. So today we are going to be installing a resonator onto the exhaust system. And this is a professional resonator versus a freelance or something else. But anyway, the very first thing I'm going to do is move the camera, get a light underneath, and figure out where I can even install this. I kind of have an idea, but it's going to be easier if we just get underneath. Here's what I'm going to do. This is my catalytic converter. I have triple checked. By law, this has to be on in the state that I live in. So I'm keeping the catalytic converter. So what I'm going to do is probably cut right here, cut right here. I'm going to have to scavenge the exhaust hanger. I'm also going to cut way up here. I'm going to be moving the catalytic converter way far forward and basically installing this in its place. And I think I have just enough room to make all of that happen. I don't know yet. I'm going to get out a Sawzall and cut this up. I realized while editing this that I didn't mention this in my intro. The ideal exhaust size for my setup would actually be 2.5 inches. I currently have 2.25 inches on my exhaust. Now, it's not too small, but it's not as free-flowing as 2.5 would be. I decided to just modify the current exhaust system because all of this is still a proof of concept. So in the interest of saving money, I'm going to just make all these modifications to my existing 2.25 inch exhaust, and I'll look into upgrading to a full 2.5 inch exhaust sometime in the future. All right, everyone, here's everything I've come up with. Yes, my hand's holding it in place because I kind of have to because of the weight of everything. I'm going to weld the resonator to the muffler. I've scavenged a piece of pipe. I'm going to weld that between the resonator and the catalytic converter, and I'm welding the catalytic converter to the existing downpipe. And it doesn't hit anything, and I'm going to have to slightly modify where the exhaust hanger mounts, but that's not going to be a problem. But this should work. So what I'm going to do now, because I've actually damaged one of my cameras welding, I'm going to report back once I have this all welded up, and we'll go from there. All right, I've actually been at this now for 3 days. This exhaust system is just fighting me. I'm going to flip the camera around to show you where I'm currently at and what I'm currently have to do to make all of this fit. Everything is so tight underneath here. I'm having to hand hold it. Basically, to get the clearance I need for the catalytic converter to weld everything, I have to offset my downpipe. So this is where my downpipe naturally rests. I can bring this whole exhaust system over, but the second I do, I'm going to be tapping the frame rail kind of constantly. So if I can offset it like that, and I've already cut the downpipe because I welded everything as one piece and then couldn't get the downpipe back on. But I'm going to have to cut part of this new weld off and make a very tight S to go over, not quite the full 2.25 inches, but I need some kind of offset to make all of this fit. And that's what I'm struggling with at the moment. So, yeah, I'll report back once I figure something out. Here's where I'm at, and I think this is going to work. Oh, move the camera. So this was a 45-degree bend pipe. I cut it in the middle, rotated 1/2, spot welded it around the joint. This pipe originally was 2.25 outer diameter. I slid a small piece of 2.25 inner diameter over it. Sorry, move the camera again. And then welded all the way around it. So this is perfectly sealed. I now need to weld this to the downpipe, re-verify that everything fits right. If it does, then I'm going to weld this piece to the downpipe outside of the vehicle, then slide it on, and then I can get to this pretty much all the way around on the exhaust here. And I have clearance everywhere. I've got plenty of finger room here. I've got room above the catalytic converter. I've got room between my transmission crossmember. Basically, the whole exhaust can move significantly and I don't hit anything. So I think I finally have all of this figured out. Maybe. So yeah, I'm going to get back to welding. Want to make a quick comment about something I said earlier about damaging a camera with my welding. I damaged it because all the sparks and embers coming off landed on one of the lenses and damaged the lens. So that's what I meant by damaging the camera. I can still weld outside my Jeep. Somewhat. All right. Excuse the fan, but I'm trying to cool everything off. So I have everything welded. Actually, I should probably do it from like 20 feet away because my welding is not pretty, and it is a flux core MIG welder. So is it functional? Yes. Pretty? No. But everything now clears. I'm not going to touch it because it's really hot, but I also have plenty of clearance here. I've got plenty of room between the catalytic converter and the frame, catalytic converter and the heat shield. That looks pretty low, but it's going to have to bounce significantly to hit that. If this starts rubbing, I can take this off, cut this out, and put extra clearance in the crossmember, so I'm not too terribly worried about it. And I did reattach the exhaust hanger as well. So let me move the camera. Let's fire this thing up and hear what it sounds like with the Resonator installed. I've cleaned up everything. I've triple checked everything. I've given it some time to cool off. One interesting note, when I had to take off the downpipe to do all these modifications, 2 of the 3 nuts on my downpipe were loose. So it might have been some of the noise that I've been fighting to reduce on this swap, so that'll be interesting. But I'm going to fire it up, get underneath the Wrangler, check for leaks in any of my welding, which I'm kind of expecting there to be leaks. And yeah, I'll report back. Fire in the hole. I've got a bearing going bad that I'm going to have to deal with. But surprisingly, I don't think I have any exhaust leaks. Somehow, I have no exhaust leaks. I am thrilled by that fact, but I'm also kind of surprised. And I definitely made the right call in redoing the exhaust again, because it definitely does vibrate quite a little bit. And I think if I had tried making it work with my original design, the catalytic converter would have been tapping the frame, which would have been horrendous. But now with my setup, I have plenty of room everywhere. Well, as much room as you are going to get in this setup. Let's put it that way. So let me go clean up and do a couple other quick things, and we'll take this out for a quick test drive. I can already tell you, it's quieter. It is significantly quieter. What stinks is, I don't know if it's the Resonator. I don't know if it's because I got rid of those ball joints or the ball and socket style exhaust clamps. It could be because now the downpipe's properly secured to the turbo. No idea. Well, we're going to take this out for a test drive and see what it does. Oop, I need to redo my phone. It's bouncing. Where are we idling at? 900. Let's go this way. So quiet. Oh, this is incredible. gonna have to fix that bearing. I think I know which one it is. Everything is working great. Everything's cooling properly. I'm cruising at 500 degrees. This is the quietest this has ever been. I mean, it is somewhat loud, but I'm doing 45 miles per hour with a half door, and I actually feel like I'm yelling. I feel like I can talk with a normal indoor voice, and it's fine. I mean, you can definitely hear the engine, but I don't feel like it's deafening anymore. And we're idling at 700 RPM. We're almost at 180 degrees. Let's get on it just a little bit. Makes a ton of boost. I'm now doing the speed limit. It's 50. I can't hear the engine. I can't hear the motor. The wind is now louder than the motor. We're holding 2,000 RPM, 620 degrees on our EGTs, and it's over 90 today. Oh my goodness, this is just so nice. Shouldn't have done that. I knew I was coming up to a stop sign. I had plenty of brakes, but I had to get on it a little bit harder than I wanted to. So it looks like how I would normally drive this, the normal amount of throttle I would want to give this. It gets to about 800 degrees. When I really get on it, it shoots up to about 1,000 degrees. But it's interesting, it like gets to 1,000 and it still climbs, but once it gets to 1,000, it starts slowing down. And like I said in my last video, EGTs, you can definitely push them way harder, but I'm accelerating this swap in a way that I just wouldn't normally do. I'm kind of driving it beyond how I would drive it on a day-to-day basis, mostly because it's so hot today. It's a good test of how everything is operating and cooling and whatnot. I could cruise all day in this at 45, 55 miles per hour and not worry about my hearing or anything. Like, it doesn't drone anymore. It's not overbearing. And part of it is just perspective. Because, I mean, I still have my first... Hold on. What I was saying is, I still have my first diesel, which is my Jeep Liberty. The transmission shot in it. I need to replace it because I really want that vehicle up and running again. But that was my first diesel, and you always knew it was a diesel. But I liked it. I mean, you know, you just kind of got used to it. And then I did this swap. The Kubota was really loud. Then I went to the TDI, and it was quieter and nicer, but still loud. And then I got my Jeep Gladiator Eco Diesel, and that's by far the quietest diesel I have ever owned in my life, and it showed me you could make a diesel quiet. Well, now I feel like this setup
is somewhere in between the Liberty and the EcoDiesel. This is not as quiet as my EcoDiesel Gladiator, but it's also not nearly as loud as my Jeep Liberty CRD either. And quite frankly, I'm fine with that. I'm gonna go ahead and bring this up in this video because I'm sure I'm gonna get comments on it. I know my welding's not pretty. I am using a MIG welder with flux core, and what I do is a whole bunch of little tacks first, and then I go over the weld, and then I go over it one more time just to make sure I get really good penetration everywhere. And I should have filmed it, but especially on the turbo downpipe, I always check my welds by looking inside the pipe, and you can see the heat ring from the penetration of the weld. And we have a perfect heat ring all the way around, you know it's good. Is it pretty? Absolutely not. Do I care? Absolutely not. Functional, not pretty. That really could be my motto. But it works. It doesn't leak.
So it's been a couple of days since I took it out for a test drive, and I have been thrilled with how the Wrangler is operating. The other thing was I did fill this up with diesel fuel, and you have to understand, I haven't put diesel fuel in this since January or February, and since I put diesel fuel in it, I've had it running in my shop for about 2 hours while I finally figured out the cooling system. I also have been using it around my property. When I bought my property, there were a lot of trees that had been falling down and whatnot just because of age. So I've been using the Wrangler as a tractor to drag these huge trees around. And the diesel with the Rubicon transfer case is just fantastic. It just drags it like it's nothing. And then when I installed the new intercooler, I drove it in a very spirited manner to see the thermal limits of everything that was going on. And even with all of those things which really hurt fuel economy, I went 232.5 miles and I put 9.07 gallons of diesel fuel in the tank, which is just over a half tank used on this TJ Wrangler. That comes out to 25.5 miles per gallon, which I think is fantastic for how long this was running without actually being driven on the road. And like I said, I do plan on doing some more fuel economy testing in the near future. But anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you sometime soon. Goodbye. I might have blown head gasket.